The Old Knight and the Young Squire. Chapter 1. On the Path. A sunny, cool late afternoon as dusk approaches. A wagon of 3 young men ride peacefully through a forest path. 2 boys sit on the bench at the helm, the one driving closer to a man, around 17, maybe 18 years old, with a strong build, especially for his age. The other about 15 or 16, slightly smaller, but similar in build to what the driver probably looked like a couple of years prior. Lastly, a much younger boy of 11 or 12 rides in the wagon itself, enjoying an apple from a sack he leans up against. The boys laugh and talk as their horses peacefully trot through the forest path. Suddenly, 4 men jump from the woods, surrounding the path and blocking their way, men with knives and a couple with swords in their waistbands. The look of a few bad winters on their faces, they begin to walk toward the cart. The young boy hides under the sheet that covers the supplies the boys are hauling. "Out for an evening stroll, are we, lads?" says one of the bandits as he takes a few steps towards the cart. "Wouldn't happen to have anything to eat in there, would you? Me and my companions are quite famished." "We have some apples we'd be willing to share with you," says the oldest boy driving the cart. "Apples, you say? Well, we are very hungry, and I don't see a couple of apples helping that." The man slowly approaches the cart as he speaks. The boy at the helm can't help but notice his greasy hair, tattered clothes, the sword on his left hip and knife worn across his breast, and worst of all, the dark black teeth he flashes with every word. The man keeps one hand on his sword as he approaches, moving his free hand with his words until reaching the cart, propping his free hand up against the driver's side of the cart and looking up at the driver. "You must have something else in there you could spare us?" He flashes a broken black smile toward the driver. "There's nothing more we can spare. The cart is for the whole village. They trusted us with its safe delivery back from the city." The man leans back from the cart and raises an eyebrow. "Ah, the big city you all have been, eh?" He gestures with his hand back the way they came. "You all must live in that village up the way." Gestures back toward the end of the tree line just up the path. "Aye," says the driver. The driver is visibly disturbed by the men and knows now for certain these men don't just want something to eat. "If you know about our village, you must know it's less than a mile past the tree line." The man smiles and nods. "That we do," replied the man. "If you all are willing to follow us on, I'm sure our mother would have you all for supper." "Mother?" says the man. "Wouldn't your father have a say on who comes over for supper?" "We lost our father about 3 years ago to some bandits who tried to raid the village," replied the boy. "Tragic," the man says as he approaches back to the boy. As another casually gets closer to the boy on the passenger side, he reaches up to put his hand on the boy's shoulder. "You don't want to join him this early in life, do you, son?" The boy's eyes go stern as he stares at the man, clearly enraged by the mention of his father's death. "Now why don't you step down from there and let us take that—" Mid-sentence, the boy strikes the man directly in the nose and jumps onto the man. "Brothers, run!" he says as he pounces on top of the man. As the horses buck from the commotion, the middle brother to his side jumps onto the man that casually approached to him and bites onto his neck as he screams. The older brother keeps striking the other man as the free 2 move to help them. The youngest brother slips out the back and under the cart. He maneuvers toward the middle brother and grabs a large rock from the path as he does. The man coming to assist his companion fighting with his middle brother seems to be entertained by the scrap and walks slowly toward them with a slight smile. He is huge, probably the 3rd biggest man the boy has seen, after Sir Domatos and his late father. As he bends to pull his brother off, the youngest jumps from under the cart and with all his strength strikes him over the head with the rock. The blow drops him to the ground, then hits the other, knocking him out too. Before the two can celebrate, they are struck with horror as their older brother screams in pain. The man that came to assist the first that was attacked is holding their oldest brother by the arms, as the brother stabs him in the chest with his knife. The middle brother grabs the rock and looks to his little brother. "Run, Jason! Now! Get Sir Domitos!" As he charges with Rock, Jason stands motionless, still horrified at the sight of his oldest brother bleeding from his chest. His middle brother strikes the man in the head, sending him to the ground. The man holding the oldest brother throws his lifeless body to the ground and strikes the middle brother. His gaze goes back toward Jason as he falls. "Jason, go now!" he yelled, and he scrambled to his feet before turning into another strike from the man. Jason snaps from his entranced state and notices the large man near him begin to regain consciousness. Jason thus takes off toward his village. "That little bastard," says the man he first struck with the rock as he sits up and sees Jason running from the cart. "Tom, get after him," he yells into the forest. "No one was supposed to die," the voice from the forest replied to the man, but just a muffled noise over the sound of the fight his brother is having and the pounding of his feet on the path to Jason. "Useless," he yells as he gets up and draws his sword. Jason turns around to see what is happening behind him, only to see his brother struggling in a fight with the one who held his oldest brother, as the one who drew his sword grabs him from behind by the head and slits his throat. Jason's eyes swell with tears as he slowly backs up and turns to continue running toward the village. The bandit who killed the oldest brother begins to get up, groaning and holding the back of his head where he was struck. He sees the body of the middle brother who struck him. He kicks and spits on his body before turning to the forest to see a young boy about the age of 12 come from the forest. "Where the hell were you during that, you dumb bastard?" he screams at the boy. Tom looks down as he slowly walks toward the group. "You let that little one go too." "The boy never listens," said the murderer of the middle brother. The leader looks up the path to see Jason exiting the forest heading full speed toward the village. "Is there anything you can do, boy?" the leader screams as Tom finally arrives at the group. "You said no one would get hurt." The leader grabs his arm hard. "Listen here, you little shit. When we found you, you were nearly starved, and we took you in out of the kindness of our hearts. If it wasn't for us, you'd be worse than these two by now. You owe us your damn life. If we say stand on your head, you don't ask why or how long, you do it." He shoves Tom away from him. "Do you understand?" "I understand," Tom replied as he rubs his arm where the man had grabbed him. "So what now?" says the large man who slit the throat of the middle brother as he bends over his body, cleaning his sword of blood on the boy's shirt. The leader climbs onto the cart as he holds his head. "Let me think." A few moments pass as the other who Jason has knocked out finally comes to, slowly getting back to his feet and leaning on the cart. The other two search the cart, finding food, spices, and other supplies in the back. "What have you found?" shouted the leader, turning around from a hunched-over position where he held his head. "A pretty good haul," said the large man. "We could live off this for a long while." A smile comes across the leader's face, the same vile expression he showed the boy moments before killing him. "But imagine how long we could live off what's in that little village," the leader says as he jumps down from the cart. The rest of the group gathers around him. "A whole village, Hugo? With the 5 of us, you expect us to take over a whole village?" The man looks over at Tom. "Well, 4 of us, and Tom." Tom frowns and looks down. "Think about it, Edmund. You heard the big shithead say the village was raided?" "I heard about that. Happened less than a year ago." "Can't be something a village of that size can recover from that quickly," he says as he starts to pace as he puts his fingers around his beard. "How many houses do you see there?" 16, maybe 17, and that old chapel. There can't be more than 6 or 7 men left there, and if this is the lot they're trusting, escorting their whole town's supplies, they have to be hurting for grit among them. Could just be they have to work the fields and can't leave for a trip to town, replied Edmund. No, they're cowards, and we can take those crops and whatever they have hidden behind panels in those houses. Hugo looks around at the other 2 men. Not to mention the women will need some company after their husbands. Hugo looks at the 2 dead boys, and suitors aren't around anymore. He smiles his vile smile as the other bandits laugh. I guess you have a point, Edmund says as his laughter dies down. Of course I have a point, Hugo says, still smiling. Besides, the little one ran off. They'll end up getting some backup from the next village and hunt us like dogs. Hugo walks back to where he laid after being struck by a rock to pick up his still bloody knife. But if there's no one to run for help, he smiles again. So take this cart off the path and hide it. We'll send someone back for it once the village is taken care of, he says, as he points to the 2 lackeys of his and to Edmund, then to the cart, gesturing for them to get to hiding it. They don't hesitate and follow Hugo's orders. This could turn out great, or be the worst plan you've ever schemed up, Hugo, says Edmund. Trust me, old friend, Hugo says, as he put his hand on Edmund's shoulder, to which Edmund annoyingly glances at before back to Hugo as the vile smile curls back onto his face. We'll live like lords. Chapter 2. The Old Knight. Jason is still running with all his might. His cries are replaced with heavy breathing, and he approaches the first house off the road to the village. Sir Domitos, help! A tall and stocky, grey-haired and bearded man opens the door to the house. What is it, Jason? Are you okay? Jason struggled to catch his breath for a moment. Bandits ambushed us in the cart. They killed Alexander and Henry. No, says Sir Domitos as he approaches Jason to hug him. I am sorry, Jason. Jason remains stern as Sir Domitos lets him go from the embrace. Thank you, my lord. Sir Domitos noticed Jason's stern appearance even in losing his brothers and admires his resolve. His expression then matches Jason's. Are they headed this way now? I don't know, sir. I ran as fast as I could away, like Henry told me to. I looked around once. I wish I hadn't. Jason frowns, and so does Sir Domitos. Good boy. You did well. Jason nods sadly. How many are there? 4. Armor? None, sir. But they all have knives, and 2 have swords. Sir Domitos looks toward the tree line and can see a group of men approaching the edge in the distance. They know of the raid last autumn. They are coming for the village. The village can't handle another pillaging, and Sir Domitos will not be unprepared to defend his people this time. Come with me, quickly, Jason. I need your help. They both run to enter the house, past the fireplace where a sword hangs above the hearth, into the back room where a full set of armor is on display on a wooden mannequin. Jason is struck by the sight of the armor and stares as the old knight approaches it. Congratulations, Jason, Sir Domitos says, looking back as Jason snaps to. You're a squire. Now, help me equip. Jason helps Sir Domitos get into his armor as quickly as possible, tying the straps of his arm and leg armor and the sides of his breastplate as Sir Domitos puts on his coffer, gauntlets, and finally his helmet with the visor up. They rush from the room. Sir Domitos takes the sword from over the top of his fireplace as they leave the house. Go now, and tell everyone to arm themselves and get their families inside. Don't leave, only defend their homes. Then go get your mother and sisters inside. Yes, sir. Jason begins to run toward the village. Jason. Yes? I'm sorry for them. I will avenge them. Jason nods and leaves. The knight pulls down his faceplate to hide his age as he walks toward the entrance of the road. The bandits are coming up on the village, walking slowly with looks of arrogance and laughing among themselves as one man moves to block them. Domatos thinks to himself as he continues walking to the center of the road. 4, he says. But they come with 5. That boy is no older than Jason. He clears his mind of that thought as he turns to face them in the middle of the road and plants his sword in front of him between his feet, keeping his hands on the hilt. Halt! Domatos commands assertively as the bandits stop their laughing and their movement, almost as if Domatos's voice hits them like a strike itself. I am Sir Domatos. I am Lord Regent of this village. What is your business here? Hugo approaches, slowly taking an angle to the side of Sir Domatos, same black smile across his face. My lord! Hugo gives a bow as the 2 lackeys chuckle again, but nervously. Edmund stares at Domatos, hand clutching his sword. We are but humble traders. The boy lifted some of our wares off the cart while we were taking a little break. We simply want our supply. Sir Domatos, in a swift motion, knocks up his sword and puts it to the man's neck. I have no time to listen to your fantasy and lies. I know what you are and what you've done. The man laughs. So you think you're just... Domatos cuts Hugo's head from his shoulders mid-sentence. As his head rolls to his companions, they look for a second, shocked at the sight of their leader's head before them as his body falls to its knees in front of them. Sir Domatos takes a fighting stance and faces them. Surround him! Edmund yells as he pulls his sword. The 2 other bandits draw their knives and begin to slowly move around Sir Domatos. Domatos backs up in turn to keep them in his vision. You too, Tom, Edmund says, as Tom trembles as he obeys and goes left with one of the bandits as Edmund and the other go right. Edmund steps over Hugo's lifeless body. The stare down and positioning continue for a moment until one of the bandits on Edmund's side yells and charges straight on. Edmund comes from the right as the other comes from the left. Tom moves to behind Domatos but does not attack. Domatos counters the frontal charge of the first bandit that was too overzealous and arrived a moment before his backup. Domatos then stabs him through the gut. As his sword is stuck in the gut of the first attacker, the other 2 arrive and begin to stab and slash with their knife and sword, not used to their targets being armored, or fighting back with weapons for that matter. They cannot find the gaps in the armor, and they have no effect on Sir Domatos. Domatos turns and headbutts Edmund to the ground. He then pulls his sword from the bandit and turns to face the other. A brief melee occurs with the bandit dodging an attack, but catches a left hook from Sir Domatos. The bandit recovers and goes to tackle Domatos, but he shoots under his left arm and thrusts his sword backwards into the back of the bandit. As Domatos turns to see the man fall, he hears small footsteps rushing from behind him. Don't do it, boy, he thinks to himself. Domatos turns with a backhand, not as hard as he could, but with enough force to knock Tom to the ground, and his knife flies from his hand. Tom touches a bloody nose as he looks up to see Sir Domatos pointing his sword at him. Domatos hears Edmund get up, but continues to point the sword at Tom. Edmund rushes at Domatos, to which he catches a back elbow to the chin as hard as Domatos can throw it. Domatos turns to now face Edmund, who is clutching his mouth with one hand and holding up his sword with the other. Domatos hits the sword with his own, knocking it from Edmund's hand. He moves to straddle Edmund, who crawls backwards, trying to get away. As Domatos lifts his sword to finish Edmund, he is able to mutter, "Wait!" audible enough to understand, but just barely now, as he is missing most of his teeth. Domatos holds his sword above Edmund. "I surrender!" Domatos moves back from Edmund. "Get up now." He turns to Tom, still laying in shock, watching the interaction. "You too." Tom gets up and moves in front of Domitos. Edmund stumbles that way as Domitos shoves him in that direction. He lifts his sword toward the middle of the village and proclaims to the two, "Walk." Chapter 3. Justice and Judgment. Edmund and Tom walk slowly toward the village with their hands up, as Domitos walks slightly behind them with his sword ready. As they enter the village, Domitos exclaims, "Everyone outside!" The villagers start to unbar their doors and windows as the recognizable voice of their lord brings relief. They all leave their homes and gather around the three of them as they walk toward the center, looks of disdain on their faces as Jason undoubtedly told them of the murder of Alexander and Henry when telling them to shelter. Once reaching the center, Domitos knocks Edmund to his knees and points to Tom. "Down, now!" Tom drops quickly to his knees as Domitos turns to face the villagers. "These men, along with the rest of their group, murdered poor Alexander and Henry in cold blood on their way back with the supplies for the village. They are all that remain. They will stand trial here before all of you." The villagers stare at the bandits with disgust. Weeping is heard among them, most likely the boy's mother and 3 sisters they left behind. "Jason!" yells Sir Domitos. Some villagers make way for Jason as he emerges from the crowd with a look of pure hatred directly at Edmund. Sir Domitos stands in the way of Jason's view of Tom. "You will be the judge of these bandits. I will carry out your sentence." Jason stares at Edmund with hatred. "I sentence them to the same fate they gave my brothers." Domitos gestures to 4 men and points toward Edmund and Tom. "Hold them." The men grab them. He then gestures to another boy to come over to him. "George, grab a log from the wood pile there and bring it to me." The boy rushes to get the log and brings it back to Domitos. Domitos thanks the boy and takes the log. "All women and children back inside, please." The women and children begin to leave. Jason breaks his stare with Edmund and turns to go home. "Not you, Jason." Jason turns and nods, then goes back to his hateful stare at Edmund. Domitos places the log under the chest of Edmund, and the 2 men hold him to it. "Please, Lord. Mercy, please. I have a lad. I was just trying to get some food for him. The others killed the boys. Not me. He killed Henry." Jason's voice interrupts as everyone turns to look at him. His eyes stay locked on Edmund's. "Came up behind him and slit his throat. Henry had no weapon and he was fighting with another one after they already killed Alexander. He deserves no mercy." Domitos nods to Jason, brings his sword above his head, then down in a quick slash taking Edmund's head. Jason still stares with hatred. Domitos kicks Edmund's body from the log as he looks at Jason with pity and moves to Tom, placing the log under his chest. Tom begins sobbing, and he can muster no words to defend himself, scared beyond words. Domitos mutters a prayer for the young man. He feels sympathy for him being so young and getting mixed up with such a group, but he acted as well, and the punishment must be carried out. "May God have mercy on you, lad." Domitos begins to bring his sword up as Jason finally looks away from the eyes of Edmund's severed head. He realizes this boy was not among the 4 and quickly reacts. "Wait!" Jason blurts out. Domitos lets his sword drop to his side and looks at Jason along with the men holding Tom, the other men around, and Tom himself, tears in his eyes preparing for his fate. "I did not see him fighting my brothers. I believe he didn't take part." Domitos looks at Tom. "Did you attack his brothers?" Tom tries to compose himself as the men holding him down soften their hearts to the young boy and let off his back. Tom, after a moment, composes himself and speaks. "No, my lord. They told me we would only take what they had so we could eat. I've never harmed anyone, I swear to it." Sir Domitos's heart is heavy with pity for Tom. but he has just admitted to being willing to rob Alexander, Henry, and Jason of the village's supplies. The punishment for robbery under threat of violence in this kingdom is death as well. Tom looks crying at Domitos, shaking his head. Please, sir, I didn't want to start. But I am not the judge today, Domitos interrupts Tom's pleading and looks to Jason. Jason? He nods in acknowledgement to the coming question. What shall we do with him? Jason replies without hesitation. Let him go. Domitos looks back at Tom. You heard him, lad. To your feet. Tom quickly stands, drying his eyes, smiling. Thank you, my lord. Thank you for your mercy. Domitos waves his hand in disagreement. It was not my mercy. Points towards Jason. Jason looks at Tom, not with hatred as he did Edmund, but pity. Tom slowly walks toward Jason. Thank you. I am sorry for your brothers. Jason looks at him a while until he starts to cry again. It's okay. Jason quickly dries his tears. You refuse to help them. Please just help us bury their bodies for what your old group did. Tom nods and looks towards Sir Domitos. He looks to the men that were holding the two at the start of the trail. Go with Tom to get Alexander and Henry. He should know where they are and where the cart with the supplies is. Bring them back on the cart and bury them at the chapel. Then get Tom something to eat. They all nod and begin to head toward the road. Tom turns to look at Jason. Thank you again for your mercy, Tom says. Jason nods. The rest of you, come with me to retrieve the other bodies, Domitos says to the remaining men. Two grab Edmund's body, and the others walk toward the entrance of the village. My lord, Jason says. Domitos turns. Yes, Jason. Jason has the look of hatred back on his face. Can we burn those bastards that killed my brothers? I know the face of the other I seen stab Alexander, and the other two had no problem with helping. Domitos walks toward Jason and puts his hand on his shoulder. Our judgment is done here. Those that killed your brothers are all dead. Their next judgment will be before the Lord. They deserve a Christian burial, and their souls to be sent on from this world. Jason nods and looks down shamefully. If you are going to be a knight, you must know when to fight, when to judge, when to have mercy, and when your job is done. You did very well at that today. A knight, Jason says, looking up at Sir Domitos. Every young squire hopes to become a knight one day, do they not? Jason is bewildered. My lord, I am no squire. Just a peasant boy. Did you not hear me earlier when you helped me with my armor? You are my squire now. Jason has a smile come across his face. Domitos pats him on the back. I am truly sorry for your brothers. They will be missed. But I know they would be proud of their brother. Your brave and noble acts today are nothing to scoff at, as undoubtedly they had as well. Jason looks down as his smile fades. It suddenly returns when he looks at Domitos. You should have seen how they fought. If those cowards hadn't had weapons, we would have wiped the floor with the four of them. No doubt. Your father was a beast of a man. Even I wouldn't want to scrap with him. It took 3 to take him in the raid last fall. He may not have been a noble, but he fought like a knight, like you and your brothers did. Jason smiles, then sits down, and tears return. After giving Jason a moment, Domitos removes his helmet, places it under his arm, and extends his sword toward Jason. Training starts now, young squire. Clean this for me tonight. Be ready for sword training, reading lesson, and proper edict lessons first thing in the morning. Let your mother know I have taken you as a squire, but I will supply wares to her and your sisters in replacement for your work. You will still live there, of course, but lessons will take most of the work day. Jason nods as he walks toward the house to clean the sword and ready himself for his start as a squire in the morning. Domitos looks back at Jason. Jason studies the sword, and as the tears dry, he sits back down and starts to speak. You both would have made better knights. I'll never forget you two. I'll make sure no men like that do to any other families as long as I can stop it. I swear this in my brothers' names, Alexander and Henry, the knights that died defending me." Jason sits up and enters his home. "The old knight passes the sword to the young squire," Domitos says as he laughs to himself, turns, and continues walking. The end.